it is so hard keeping up. I'm so sorry for that violent, hostile rant. This kind of goes back to the whole like work-life balance and like the intense demands of being a UX designer. Today in this video, I thought we'd be a little bit more casual. We're gonna talk about work-life balance, working with really intimidating people, and the demands of being a UX designer. Thank you so much to anyone who submitted their questions on my YouTube and my Instagram. If I didn't get to you this time, I'm so sorry, but hopefully we can do more of these in the future. This question is, did you ever feel intimidated by developers or have a difficult time understanding how the product you were supposed to be designing worked exactly? Girl, yes, and yes. The beginning of my career, I was pretty intimidated because I was really afraid that everyone in the room was gonna think I was a big dum-dum and laugh at me. Not only was I dealing with imposter syndrome of like coming into a new career being an entry-level designer, I was also trying to deal with mastering and becoming an expert at UX design. So like, no, I didn't really have time to try and figure out the trials and tribulations of working with developers. And to put on top of that, boot camps don't really teach you how to do that either. So the first half of my career, I was mainly working on websites. Over time, I figured out HTML and CSS and what the limitations were. So I ended up understanding that a little bit easier, but the second half of my career was low-key terrifying. I'm working on the artificial intelligence team. How intimidating is that? And I remember when I first joined, I was like, what am I doing here?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
So here's the trick. I basically just started being honest. I told the engineers right up front, like, hey, I'm not really familiar with this space. Because of that, I'm probably going to be reaching out and asking a bunch of questions in the future. And it's funny because most of the time I didn't need to know everything. Does this engineering ticket eventually need design support? So it's really just like cutting down the noise and asking if this is something that you need to know the ins and outs of. Like, I also don't want to bullshit you and tell you like,
It's been so easy.
because I have worked with some engineers who just mansplain the shit out of me and made me feel less than. They disrespected me, and sometimes in the morning I just wanted to
choose violence.
And that's the thing, like sometimes you work with really cool, approachable engineers and sometimes you don't. And yes, it is intimidating, but also remember that a lot of the developers don't expect you to know every single thing about engineering, just like how us as designers, we don't expect developers to know how to do like auto layout in Figma or how to create an entire research plan for user interviews. Right, it is time to get some caffeine in this system before we continue our chat. All right, so the next question is, how many companies have you worked for since you finished boot camp and how long did it take you to land a job? So, oh wait, the Starbucks lady's coming. First one was a digital marketing agency, and that one was a pretty small company. I ended up landing a UX design internship there, and I mainly worked on websites for a bunch of different clients in a bunch of different industries like healthcare, fintech, retail. After 2 months of being an intern, I then ended up getting a full-time UX design job with them as a UX strategist. And don't even get me started on like the whole description of that. After that agency, I ended up going to a startup and I worked on a booking platform. So then that was like my first taste in software design. And then that startup actually got acquired by a pretty big corporate company. So then after I left that company, I'm actually now at a larger CRM, big tech software company, and I've enjoyed it so far. Thank you. Have a good one. You too. I did bounce around a bit. I went to 4 different companies, but you know, that was just my journey. Want to know more about how I got my job right after boot camp, what I did, all my tips and tricks, I highly recommend you watch a video that I have already created. I'll put it in my description and it should pop up here somewhere. What do you like to do for fun when you're not working? Oh, I love that someone actually asked me this question because sometimes I feel like all I am is just like a UX robot pumping out content for everyone. But I do have a life outside of UX. I am no UX angel. I do have fun. I love traveling, so I try and go to an international destination at least once a year. And then otherwise, like, if you follow me, you know that I am a huge foodie. I love understanding food and like food culture and history. It doesn't stop there. I actually love to cook. I meal plan every single thing I'm going to eat on Sundays. I really like making curry. So like I love making chicken tikka masala, butter chicken, yellow Thai curry, and then lately I've been on like a Japanese kick because I am Japanese, so I made gyoza, okonomiyaki, ramen the other night. Thank you again for asking about what I do for fun, because sometimes it looks like all I do is sit at my desk and play with my dog and drink coffee and just like be horizontal. Okay, next. Do you feel like you have more freedom since starting a new position? Okay, so this is a very UX design answer, but it depends. With my new job right now, I definitely feel like there's a really good work-life balance. And I feel like they really do respect you and they're like, you are all grown. You can figure out your own schedule as long as you get your job done. So I'm very optimistic that it will stay that way. However, my previous companies that I work with wasn't necessarily the case there. So when I worked at an agency, it was so demanding because I was at the mercy of the client. So we had these tight butthole deadlines. It wasn't the pace for me, so I eventually put my notice in, and I bet, you know, my manager was probably like, why?
Why are you running? Why are you running?
It's because I'm a slug and I need to slow it down.
But, big but, I want a caveat. This may not be the experience for everyone because it really depends on the industry. Oh my gosh, this is like the biggest one. Culture is so big. If you work at a company and the culture is to hustle and to grind, then you need to snuff that out during interviews. And if that's something that you want, that's something that you should look for. Next question. What's the one thing you don't like about the UX industry? Man, you're just hitting me with the hard hitters. My gripes with the UX industry fluctuates. I know I have a video that I consider one of my blockbuster hits of my channel about what I hate about UX design, and I wish one of them that I could add is this. I feel like UX content design and UX research is severely undervalued. I totally get it. Smaller companies just don't have the budget and they can't afford a full suite of UX designers, and that totally makes sense. But sometimes some of the companies that do have those types of designers don't really see the full impact because the final results that they get are more like visual and they can see it. And that's typically from more of like your generalist UX designer or product designer like me. Not only is it so important in order to create good user experience, it's also really difficult for that generalist product designer or UX designer to carry the weight of the entire design process. And again, like another gripe that I can think of, and honestly, I know you only wanted one, but with me, you get two. This kind of goes back to the whole like work-life balance and like the intense demands of being a UX designer. For me, at least, like it's already hard enough trying to deal with imposter syndrome, but then you like add in all these layers of having to be an expert at every tiny little thing in the design process. Make sure that you know exactly how to make a research plan. Make sure you understand design systems. Make sure your UI is up to par. Make sure you understand accessibility so that you can also articulate your designs, and not only that, communicate to all your stakeholders and fight and argue for the user. That is so much to put on one person. That's just inside of work. But then outside of work, you see really, really good UX designers showcasing their work, talking about all the books that they read and the podcasts that they listen to, which is awesome. I've done that myself, but like it is so hard keeping up. I literally think I have a book in here. Yeah, I do. Like I literally put these books everywhere and I'm just like, maybe you'll read them, but like there's too many of them. I'm not gonna read all of them. I'm so sorry for that violent, hostile rant. Ultimately, it's up to me. It's up to me to like draw the line and be like, you know what? I just want to sit still with where I am today and grow the skills that I have right now before taking that next step and like leveling up and like really carving time for it and sitting still with it for a while and being okay with that. Retrieve the book from my back seat. Susan, please don't hate me. Just happened to be there and I got angry for a second and very, violent, and I threw it away in the back seat. Let's move on to the next question. What is your opinion on UX Masters programs versus boot camps? I think both UX Masters and boot camps can provide really valuable educational aspects of UX design. However, I did not do a UX master's program, so I cannot speak confidently to like the actual nitty-gritty of the experience. I will try and sum up what I've been seeing in terms of UX master's programs. Typically give you a much more in-depth learning experience for UX design. These programs that I've seen also provide a lot more resources to like actual hands-on work and working with real-world stakeholders. Boot camps, however, I have experience in. They are much shorter and they're a very quick way to learn the basics of UX design so you can kind of get into that entry-level UX design position. They definitely tend to be a lot more affordable than UX master's program, and it's like a huge difference. They're typically like mock projects that they give you, and that's what's hard is because when you go out and looking for jobs, hiring managers can sniff out whether or not it's a real project or mock project, which is not something that you should be ashamed for or embarrassed of. I remember I was like, oh my god, I'm not gonna get hired if I tell them it's not a real project, but quick tip, you should just tell them. The decision's really up to you based on like your specific goals, your circumstances, the resources that you have, and like your learning style. And it's also really important to consider the length of the program, the cost, the curriculum itself. I know I have a slew of videos talking about boot camps and like timelines that actually didn't end up being what I expected. Okay, the next question is something I get in my DMs a lot, and I'm so sorry I don't respond. It is just too much. And again, like, I do have a life, you guys. I have a life outside of UX, so try and keep my sanity in check. Do you offer mentorship programs? So I know I've mentioned in my previous videos that I had coaching sessions. Unfortunately, I had to discontinue offering those services, and I don't think they're coming back anytime soon. I sacrifice a lot in order to make these YouTube videos. I know it might not seem like it because you're just seeing cookies, but you're not seeing the chocolate chips and the flour and the butter. I don't know why we're talking about cookies. I decided to cut a few things, and unfortunately coaching is one of them. I know that this is something that's really important to you in your journey as a UX designer, so I hope you understand. There are some amazing UX YouTubers though that do offer coaching services, so I highly recommend you try and seek those out. I follow a bunch of UX design content creators on my Instagram, and those are probably the ones that can do the best for you, and I fully trust that they're going to guide you in the right direction. If you are interested more and more in what I do as a UX designer on a day-to-day basis, and you want like a true sneak peek on like all the demands that I get and all the tasks that I do, then I highly recommend you check these videos out next. I am going to pee my pants, so we are ending this video. I love you guys. Thank you so much again for tuning in. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you next time. Also, I only said I was gonna pee my pants because I haven't gone to the bathroom in a long time, because as you can see, I'm filming in my car, and unless I have a little pee thing in here, a little porta potty connected to my seat, I gotta go.